Welcome to this Customer Success Leadership Series. Today I have the delight to invite Darrell Smithson. Darrell is a global head of customer experience, customer success in the industrial B2B software. Darrell, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you, Catherine.
Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Darrell?
Yeah, sure. I was a trained engineer and got into customer success via sort of customer service. I've worked from the frontline support and progressed to working in large corporate organizations. And over the last 10 years, I've really been helping businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, grow their reoccurring revenue, quite frankly, through best practices in customer success. So wide range of industries, few countries. It's been a broad church of experiences.
Fantastic. I'm very excited about this series in customer experience because this function is a new function. It didn't exist 20 years ago, even I would say 15 years ago. We had customer support, we had account management functions, but we didn't have customer experience. And with the rise of the SaaS world, I think it has just been exploding. But some companies are still behind others. And I'm hoping that this series of podcasts is going to help the ones who either want to set up a customer success experience function or the ones who want to improve or, the existing ones, right? But I also want this podcast to be useful for people who are professionals who are looking at getting into customer experience and the ones who want to grow their career in that vertical, all right?
Absolutely,
so let's start with some questions. And this is more regarding, how to unlock business growth through customer success. So my first question to you, Darrell, is customer success as a growth lever. So how should CEOs evaluate their existing customer base in terms of engagement, retention, and revenue impact?
Yeah, no, that's the fundamental. It's a great question, Catherine, to start us off with. Yeah, look, the CEOs, I've worked for a number of them now, kind of helping them sort of use customer success, customer experience to grow their business from what they'd already started from. And it does take CEOs to get their heads around this because often they've seen up until that point where they've been growing that customer success has probably been viewed as an overhead, and then it moves much more, the opportunity actually moves to actually know it's actually a revenue generator. Couple of things that spring to my mind, why customer success is important to a business is, well, the cost to acquire net new customers is really expensive. And that doesn't mean to say you stop doing that. But once you get to some kind of critical mass, it makes more sense to expand your existing customers. So that's a kind of a give me, like, why this makes economic sense to a business. The second thing is big part of customer success and why it exists and was sort of grown out of a SaaS model was, as it moved to more subscription based, it was really important that every year the customer kind of re-engaged and was able to renew because it was a subscription based revenue model. And software became much more open protocol or open source. So customers had more chance to switch. 10, 20 years ago, you were locked into a piece of software and it was really difficult to get out of. Today, you can switch, every other month if you wanted to. Highly kind of recommended, and that's what customer success was all invented to do, was to continually make sure customers unlocked that value very quickly, but two was that when it did come to that renewal process, that the customers was experiencing great success with the product they'd purchased, and that they would resubscribe. And then the icing on the cake really became that, well, actually, we want to be able to expand our business with more features, more benefits to the customer. And then suddenly they were able to, find that actually through customer success, we're actually driving new revenue as well. So it's a lot for a CEO to kind of go, yep, my business is ready for this, and I need to think slightly differently. But the ultimate thing is when a CEO gets to a certain level, they could be leaving revenue and profitability on the table, and obviously that's the reason why CEOs get engaged in this and need to understand, is this right for my business at this time? So that I can go to the next level.
Yeah. Can you make the difference between account management and customer success? Because there is a fine overlap, right? And I think for
absolutely
people, whether they are in those functions and sometimes creating conflicts or not, the understanding is not always that clear. So I would love you to be more specific.
Look, and in the industry I've kind of come from, the more B2B industrial software, then the traditional kind of methodologies have been used and deployed for many years, where there are account managers and then there's a support staff. So when you come in with a customer success strategy, it's starting to combine these two, and where do they all exist? I think more mature software companies have figured out that you have a kind of acquisition team that goes out and hunts and finds net new customers for the software, and then they hand this over to the customer success team to develop that. And so going back to what you were saying is, where do account managers fit into all of this now? I've seen a couple of different kind of scenarios where the customer success team overlap with account managers directly, so they work absolutely in unison. There's a bunch of account managers that own the accounts, and customer success provide continuous engagement with the account, making sure that they're being successful and progressing. And then other businesses is that no, they work on the basis that, as I say, the acquisition team are hunters. They are absolutely, that's their profile of salesperson you're looking for. Their job is to go find net new customers. And then the customer success team is to own the customer after that. And, I think even when you look at some of the large platform SaaS companies, that's how most of them are set up. They're set up in that way, hunters and farmers. And the customer success team really becomes very much a farming sales team with great technical knowledge. That's the kind of key to it.
Do you think it reduces the role of the account manager to which I call the farmer? I mean, in my terminology, a long time ago we had the hunters, the farmers, and the hunters were for the new business. The farmers were the account managers. Do you think that it reduces the role of the account management, that now the account manager, all they have to do basically is to negotiate the new contracts with the client, with the customers? Or how do you see that as well?
And again, I think this is kind of depends on the maturity of the business, where they're at and the scale of them. But yeah, definitely the account manager is much more biased towards a customer success approach now than they were, say, 10, 15 years ago when that didn't exist and it was just a support team. And so, yeah, I would say most software companies, and now equally some hardware companies that embed software in the industrial sort of space, are starting to think that, no, actually customer success is where the account managers lie. And, depending on the breadth of your portfolio, I work very much with companies that are small to medium size, where the breadth of their portfolio may be not that extensive, but definitely there are things that you can sell in addition to what you initially sold, and that is really a great profit driver for businesses, because, as I say, the cost of acquisition is actually quite low compared to the guys that are going out selling the initial software or even piece of hardware with software connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Now, a question about how to drive the ROI, return on investment, for customers and the business. So, how can businesses reduce the time and effort new customers need to realize the value of their investment?
Yeah, no, that is the essence to it. The investment in customer success is to get customers to this ROI much faster on their purchase. And look, any new software, any new product coming into a business is quite a disruptor. And sure, after the initial excitement that, hey, we got this new piece of equipment or this new software coming in, and all the users are super excited about it, and this is going to be so much better than what we had before. After a few months or whatever, there's a realization that actually this is somewhat hard work, and we're managing change inside our business, and that's where customer success and customer success from the product standpoint that's being supplied to the customer has to come in. We got to be able to help the customer through the change experience, through deploying something that's new, getting the people to alter the things that they were doing for the better. And often, any change management, most people will know that, beyond the first initial excitement, there comes that moment where everybody's like, well, this is not quite as easy as I thought. And what customer success needs to do from the supplier standpoint is make sure we can move people through that, where they quickly adopt and able to kind of discover some of the benefits that this new technology is bringing to them. And there's always resistance to change. We know that already. So customer success is to grease the slides on that, and make sure that we fulfill the potential of this new technology going into a customer, and that they get to see this much quicker. And I think, how do you start on that? Well, I always got my teams to work, very much on this onboarding phase. That there's so much you can learn about, the resistance to change that could be inside the business as you deploy this new solution, or the type of people, or what are their expectations? Because often the expectations of the users that are going to be using the technology was probably different to what the business was, who made the decision to go ahead. So bridging that gap and helping them with that, it's really important that initial kind of kickoff to be able to understand that.
What do you say are the key indicators that management should look at when it comes to measuring the financial impact of customer success experience?
Yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, kind of the early stages of customer success was like, hey, we've moved to a subscription model, and we want to make sure that we have very low churn and very high renewal rates. So let's work with our customers to make sure they can do that. More so going back to the onboarding, it's like when do we get people, or when do we get the customer to really uncover the value that they are expecting? So that revenue, or the customer value piece, is somewhat a subjective type measure. But going back to my point about onboarding, make sure you understand what the customer is expecting. What are their expectations around ROI? What are they kind of seeing? The improvements they want. What are the improvements they want to see through this deployment of this new technology, and making sure that we're kind of helping to track that with them. And as I say, most of it is, as you mentioned in the question, is a return on investment. They know how much investment physically they've made in the purchase, but also it's the investment in the change management piece. How much have they had to really invest in time and effort to deploy this? So certainly my view is that there isn't one particular KPI that you could put on each customer that would be the same. But understanding, getting that expectation out of them and tracking that expectation as a good customer success manager is really important, and make sure that they get to that point, because once you're through that point, then you're into that expansion kind of journey part of the journey map that they're working on. How do we unlock even more unexpected value that perhaps they hadn't even planned for, but exists inside your product.
Do you think that having the ability to measure this financial impact for the customer, I mean, for the customer, it can be financial impact, can be, of course, productivity impact, efficiency impact, expansion impact, whatever may be the case. Do you think that having the ability to measure more precisely that impact with the customer will help to justify even more the customer success experience?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. You know, as I say, particularly when you're, in that early stages where we're transforming a business from, maybe it's traditional early approach. Hey, we've got going, we've sold some stuff to customers, and we've rallied around, the first, early adopters, and they're all pretty satisfied. But as we move to the next wave of customers who expect somewhat more from us, this initial part is like, well, this is quite a cost burden to start with as we move to the next stage. So to your point, Catherine, I think internally it's important to understand that in terms of how much time you're spending on supporting customers. How do you make that more effective? How do you move to more of this proactive kind of support as opposed to reactive? I always believe that reactive cost to a business to react to your customers is actually very costly. You put lots of people in place to be able to react quickly, but they're not necessarily super productive. And building that mechanics inside the business that says, no, we can be much more proactive and we can reach out to customers and not be afraid to reach out to them to suggest these are things you should be trying and doing, is then starts to really ramp up. So I think there is that initial, business, cost to getting the customer on board and up to speed, and there's the cost to the customer. So you measure that in terms of what is the, what is that for the customer? What do they want to do? And we should be kind of aware of that and maybe monitoring that. But then for us as well as a business, how quickly, is it 6 months? After 6 months, customers are actually signing up more users to the platform or to the software that you've sold them, or they're using it more. And there's a number of metrics that you can use to do that, particularly now with cloud-based software. You can kind of see how successful or how much a customer is using of your software relatively easy, and that should be somewhat baked into a more mature software platform anyway. That how many of the functions are the customers using, and how often is another measure of success. That, hey, the customer's really starting to use our software well now.
I'm surprised myself as a user of a SaaS platform which was sold to me by phone. I didn't use it for a whole month, and after a month I realized, I bought this software, I bought the SaaS. Right. And no one in the company contacted me. No one realized I hadn't even used the SaaS for a whole month. And so I decided to stop using it, and I stopped paying for it. So, this is just examples of how bad onboarding can be.
100%. And look, I think, my kind of speciality is more in that sort of B2C. And I do think it's very, very much been driven by B2C as opposed to B2B, the adoption of sort of the customer success, because you were very careful that if you had a one-off customer, why aren't they not using our software? In B2B, it's usually a large investment for the customer, and it usually is it's a fairly protracted sale often to make that decision. So there's usually a project around deploying your app or your platform to the customer. But nevertheless, the basic principles that you just talked about as a customer, a B2C customer, are still exactly, they apply, still exactly the same. And again, it goes back to things like, are all the users logging on? You bought 10 user licenses or 20 user licenses, but there's only 3 people actually using it, and not be afraid to go back to the customer and go, hey, why are only, 20% of your users using this? because at the end of the day, it's going to catch up with you, because, when it comes to the end of the year and there's only, half the users actually using the software, they're going to go, why are we going to subscribe to this again? So basic principles there. But yeah, I do agree with you that the KPIs, what I've often followed is, in that early stages is, a lot of projects look at how many support calls are we taking to start with from users. Are they asking similar questions? Is it a training issue that they just don't know how to use this? Is it a process issue that they're trying to use the new system in a way that the old process probably was? So certainly that would be what I'd be checking, early on is, how many problems are we having? How many people are reaching out to the support team maybe that's there at the deployment? And also, what's the output? What was the output that we expected to get? But at a kickoff meeting, I would always sort of say to the team, hey, look, define both through our lens, but also through the lens of the customer. What does success look like in 6 months' time for you, Mr. Customer? What do you want to see? And make sure that we're tracking our way towards that kind of expectation.
Fantastic. Yeah, I understand. Now, I just want to move now to another type of question. This is for professionals who look to build a career in customer success. Yeah. And as you know, and you and I know, customer success roles didn't exist 15 years ago. So these are new roles which have been created. So obviously, when we talk about some new roles, these people have to come from other functions, from other areas of the company, right? So the evolution of a customer success role has been such that, what would you say are the essential skills needed in customer success today, and how do they combine elements of account management, advisory, training, and support?
Yeah, no, that's it. As I say, you are looking, sometimes I've had teams that have a different level of skills, i.e. specialist skills that are all kind of combined as the customer success team to make, the whole experience to the customer, seamless. But it takes a team of skills to make that work. On some smaller companies, you have to adapt the skills you have to say, actually, no, you gotta make certain people, extend their skill set to be more technical or to be more customer orientated than they had traditionally been before the transformation we were making. So, but yeah, ultimately, the DNA of like a customer experience, a customer service person, someone who has the skills and the motivation to want to help people and interact with people is super important still in this. And, back in my days where I was managing sales, kind of account managers, you knew a good account manager had this much stronger empathy with the customer, I would say, versus the killer, go out there and sell and hunt type guy who was somewhat more ruthless in terms of, like, they enjoyed the whole kind of hunt. The account managers like the longer term relationship kind of selling, and relationship selling, is embedded in most people. But then when you look at someone who's coming from a customer support standpoint, relationship selling is really not actually part of their core skills. And so you got to kind of, evolve them into, can you actually do relationship selling based on you feel confident enough to make suggestions to customers to spend more money. Whereas, when they were support people, there wasn't this sense that they were out there, they were just supporting people. They were like, hey, I give you some help. And to some degree, the business was financing that, but the individual never felt like, oh, I'm charging you for this, or, there's a cost associated to this. So, I think, the two things that I'm probably saying here is support people, you got to develop into having these kind of more, skills around, relationship selling. And relationship selling people, you've got to give them more skills around, the technical aspects of it. A lot of account managers I've had before, they understand a lot about the account they're selling into, but they would have a giant team of technical people to support them. Now we're getting account managers that actually are pretty technical as well, and understand the product in a fairly detailed way, or certainly understand maybe the role that the software or the hardware is playing inside the business. They understand that really well. So yeah, it's a mixed bag, but I do see, as we've evolved customer success, this combination has started to come together.
Yeah, and there's this need, I think, to really be into the listening of the client. It's very, very important, and solving problems, right? Because problem solving is important skill. As far as I'm a recruiter, when I would recruit for these roles, because someone who doesn't have this mind of problem solving, someone coming from customer support will definitely have that. Or
Yes.
should have that, right? Someone coming from account management, they should also have that, but it might not be so obvious. So I think this could be also a skill important to develop, and the training skill is important, because a lot of the time customer success experience people have also to train a little bit the customer.
Yeah, and I think, being able to coach people through and encourage them to go and do things. Again, it's that problem solving nature. And again, support people often have that. Some of the best trainers I've come across in my career have kind of probably started in support. They didn't set out to be trainers, but they become expert in the technology, but then they also have this kind of skill to be able to coach people through doing things that they don't feel they can do. So yeah, absolutely. I think training, coaching is really, really key. And then, as I say, I think it does boil down to this problem solving, and that's kind of I think the genesis of it. And I think you said a really interesting point, which is probably the biggest skill that you need, is you've got to be able to listen. And you can only listen if you are asked the right questions. So rather than telling people what they need or what they want, it's probing to them to get them for you to understand what truly do they really want. And that's a skill in itself. Again, going back to our technical people, sometimes they will jump to the solution much faster than finding out what the true problem is.
Now, in that space, what kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to progress in customer success? Someone has done this for 2 to 3 years as a professional. What is required from them to progress up the ladder, and what is beyond customer success leadership? Because
Yes.
you're the head of customer success, and what can they aspire to be after that?
Well, look, first of all, I would say anyone who's inspiring or is in customer success, look, it's a great place to be. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the future looks like, but it's not something that's going to go away. I think, in the past, so some of it has kind of had, you're in support, it's not deemed to be, such a high prestigious role. But I do think, the rebranding of customer success has given it some new impetus around that, and that it is a significant, important role in the business. One thing that just a side note, I always found, like, over my history of being, running businesses, no matter what leadership team you were always in, and it may be because the sequence of events within the business is that customer success is post-sales often, or much of the work is post-sales, but very rarely I've ever been into an executive meeting where we've led with customer success. We've always led with something else. And literally, I would say the majority of it comes at the end. So, in your 2-hour meeting, customer success gets 10 minutes at the end, if that. So look, I digress a bit there on that, but don't be put off by that being in customer success. I think it is making its way much further up the agenda in most companies now, that this is an important part of our business. Getting into it, you gotta like to serve, or as I always say when I'm interviewing people, you got to look for people that have got pleasing natures. They want to please, they want to help, they want to be involved. You also got to look, you got to kind of develop this skill that not everybody in the organization is going to feel like you and want to take care of the customer to the level that you want to do it, and make sure you get things right. And so there's imperfections sometimes in other parts of the area that you're going to have to kind of tailor with. But moving forward, I think, what we were talking about today about, understanding the value of customer success and what does that bring to the business, as you go through your career, understanding the mechanics of how you go about doing this, you understand what needs to be done. Then you have to understand, how do we put this together inside the business and how do we report on that? We talked a little bit about that earlier. Being able to articulate that and understand that becomes where you become into that sort of leadership role. And there isn't just I see tons of kind of training and different methodologies around selling, literally new acquisition selling. There's less written, there's less taught around how you do this type of kind of customer success thing. So if you're starting to master that through you seeing how it works, I think that's going to be something that in the next sort of 5 or 6 years will become more prevalent and more of a discipline that businesses are going to recognize, and that there's going to be much more education around it. So I think, as I say, good place to be. Start to learn how you go about this, and the actual, get some practical experience and of the mechanics of it all. It's only an area inside of any business, I think, that is just going to get bigger. So good place, good spot to be landing in.
Yeah. Do you, so beyond the head of customer success, what can someone expect to go? I mean, I have some ideas myself, but I would like to know what you think. What can you do after you have been for 3 years head of customer success?
Yeah. Look, I've always, over my career, I've looked at kind of skill sets, and like, for instance, one of my big kind of points is that not always the best salesman, the guy that sells the most stuff, is always the best sales manager, because the reason that some of the reasons that make them a great salesman doesn't necessarily make them a great sales manager. So I think, going back to, so what's going to make a great customer success manager in the future? Just because I'm a great customer support person and that's where I've gone, that doesn't necessarily translate identically to the skills you're going to need to be a great customer success manager. I think as I say, the skills part, there's plenty of people out there, but they're kind of learning the interactions of the, as we talked about earlier, about the account management and the the support kind of ideas. And going forward, what's beyond kind of customer success? Again, going back to traditional sales, the operational side of sales, you would tend to have a lot of like a sales operations team that is the mechanics that bring that together. So, that didn't necessarily fall on the sales leader. It fell on the sales operations. for me, customer success people have to understand the operational side of it. How we interact, when we interact, what processes do we use, what are the techniques, and so it's a much more operational selling role for me than perhaps the traditional sales role. Same maybe you could argue with account management. Sure, I've worked in organizations that have had fairly structured account management processes, but the customer success account management has to be pretty agile. So understanding how that works, the mechanics of that, and what are the systems you're going to deploy inside your business to be able to manage that. They're not going to be identical to just the normal sales pipeline channel stuff. It's going to be much more contact management and a combination. So yeah, there's a quite a lot to unpick there, but for me, it's knowing how to sell, it's knowing how to do customer service, and it's knowing how to do operations. So that's a broad church of skills you're going to need if you're going to be a strong customer success leader.
Do you think a head of customer success could easily transition to a COO, a Chief Operation Officer role?
Yeah, I think that for me is, so I think there's a couple of places where, you would progress, or even, expand your horizons. I think, I always think in careers is, sure, it's not always vertical. Sometimes the breadth is as important as the height in terms of, your whole job satisfaction, as well as your earning potential. So I think, yes, COO is the new kind of chief revenue officers, I think, is where customer success would be an obvious thing, because I do think that they come with the skills that could be somewhat blinded or a blind spot for someone who's coming more from the acquisition side as a chief revenue officer. Understanding the importance of this reoccurring revenue, kind of not, everything is much more smaller wins as opposed to bigger wins, and how you motivate teams around smaller wins. Lots, high volume small wins versus low volume high wins. That's a skill in itself that could send someone good in as a good chief revenue officer. And then also,
I just want to say, the only thing with the chief CRO is that the CRO has to have the go-to-market strategy skill within them. Okay, they have to come with that. So yes. I am not so convinced that someone in customer success will have necessarily the skill of, GTM, go-to-market, which is something which is quite essential to the CRO role. For me, the COO role, is more, can be more natural. But you said a very good word. You use the word breadth. It's someone that has all the skills that will make a good CEO. They can transition that. But I think that could be a more natural, next level than a CRO.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think and that's a good point. The go-to-market is certainly kind of more, inside customer success is more kind of identified, and is it doesn't have to be generated; it already kind of exists. Having said that, the other area that I think where customer success leaders do get massive exposure is in, they're adjacent to product, and product for me I think is a really underestimated important part of any business. In fact, actually most successful companies, strong product management is particularly in technology, is absolutely essential. You don't see successful technology companies that don't have strong product management. And product management will get far more out of customer success than they will necessarily out of the acquisition team, because they get to understand how well the product is doing, and they get to the direct feedback. And sure, the go-to-market, you're right, is probably missing from that. but they know much more about where the product needs to be placed and what is its advantages inside certain sectors or markets, because they get to experience it literally every single day. Where is the product being successful in this vertical or this application versus salesmen or the acquisition sales guys don't. But maybe Catherine, I'm slightly biased.
It's okay.
I probably have, but a little bit more biased towards the customer success team as to what they're capable of. But yeah, no, I think you're right. Operations is got to be baked into their DNA. They got to understand that more so than, as you say, the revenue officer is more strategic, perhaps.
I have a question. On a day-to-day basis, who are the people you interact the most outside of customer experience?
Yeah. So again, I think it depends what type of customer success product that you, or what type of business and you're the customer success team working in. We talked a little bit about, a lot of customer success evolves around post sales, but equally, particularly around software, a lot of software looks to do trials, and that's where, customer success can work with the pre-sales kind of team to shorten the length of time for decisions to acquire a new customer. And if they get a great trial period, like the one you mentioned earlier, where no one called you when you kind of bought the product or had it on a a 1 month trial, no one even, then that's not going to do a great deal. So who do they interact? If you're involved with the pre-sale, then customer success is part of that. Then you're going to have a good relationship and a good interaction with the sales team. We also talked a little bit about account management. I do see organizations that have both account managers and customer success team, and they are actually separated. So again, if you have a big, broad portfolio of both software and hardware, and you're a big organization and you're an enterprise account manager for a named account, and your basket of goods for the particular company you work for is very broad, then you would be using customer success a lot in terms of helping your customer, particularly with the products in your portfolio that they are sort of most predominantly working on, which tends to be software, as we talked about. So yeah, that they would be the main ones. And then I talked earlier when we were saying about product management. I'm a big believer in technology companies that every genesis comes out of product management, and that product management has a critical role in the total success of the business. And customer success is, if you get a mature customer success organization, it is absolutely dynamite for product management. Again, because you're dealing with literally live customers using the equipment all the time, or the software all the time. Whereas again, the acquisition guys, they're looking for features and telling product management, these are all the things we don't have, that if I had this would make this customer buy. But that doesn't necessarily kind of resonate with the actual business issues that the customer success guys are seeing, that the current customers have these genuine business issues, that if their software could do this and this, it actually improves their business, which will actually add an even better feature to a net new. So look, customer success can be doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting for product management in terms of validation and future development of the product that you sell.
I have also one question. How do you motivate your teams in customer success as well? What is that make them really, engaged and wanting to stay in a company?
Yeah, no, that's a good one as well. So again, kind of coming from my roots in like customer support is, a lot of that was, as I say, you're looking for people that are trying to please and help others. Recognition is really important. Again, most customer support people in the past, and even to some degree customer success people in the past, probably because their wins are much higher in volume in terms, I solved that problem, or I've been able to fix this, or I got the customer to do this. But in terms of magnitude, are probably fairly small. So it's volume versus magnitude of success that they're kind of, is deemed inside the business. And again, goes back to my other kind of little soapbox moment where I was like, often, customer success and its performance is always thought as, oh yeah, that's kind of at the end of the end of the the overall board presentation or whatever. Whereas in fact, I always advocate, hey, you should be pushing this much further up. One, because it is that important to the business, and two, it really motivates the whole team to get behind this. And customer success tends to be not an individual sport; it's a team sport. And customer success becomes even more successful when it isn't just a team sport for customer success; it's a team sport for the whole business. And that's probably when you have achieved as a business, a customer-centric organization. That term's kind of you loosely use, but if you really truly believe you're a customer-centric organization, usually, as I say, your customer success, these are the tip of the spears and are at the center of most of all of this. So, that for me is the motivation, recognition, and that's really important.
I think you also mentioned when we talk on the phone, Darrell, that there is also a very important part is when the customer success professional engage with the client. Often the outcome is also dependent on the collaboration with other departments. And
yes.
You mentioned to me that what was important was that this collaboration is properly implemented and working well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, I think that's somewhat at a leadership level, an executive leadership level. Everybody has to buy into this. Often support people can be deemed as the naysayers inside the business because why? They're dealing with all the problems. So anything they got to say is they're going to be talking about what went wrong as opposed to what went right. And again, I think that's that kind of transformation from customer support to customer success. Something in the title there. We're not trying to fix things because everything's gone wrong. We're trying to make people more successful. So I do feel that that's what I really kind of endorse and get on board with the whole customer success approach. Is that we're trying to kind of make it more positive, not negative. And so the perception sometimes inside the business, which you as a leader of customer success have to kind of be able to manage, is that, hey, we're not the Debbie Downers and the people that don't like, always complaining about what's going wrong and telling the business how it can do things better. We're actually we're a direct reflection of what customers are actually thinking of us. And therefore we should take note of what we're doing. So as a good customer success leader, you're creating the space for your team to be successful in. One, coaching them is like, hey, don't always expect everybody else feels as passionate about a customer as you do because, hey, they may be 2 jobs removed from the customer. But 2, creating the space where the people that are 2 jobs removed from the customer are understanding that, hey, when someone asks, customer success person asks finance, hey, where's that invoice? Or why is that? Oh, this isn't just, them being a pain in the backside to you. This is actually what the customer is reflecting back inside our business, and can we help them? So, that's kind of where I get, when I kind of talk about levels of customer success maturity, the highest level of maturity is, for me, is when the business really truly puts the customer at the center of everything, and the CEO talks in that way, and that he's leveraging everything the customer success team is doing to amplify that inside the business.
Yeah. And I imagine also that adequate training is important for these people, because if they are not trained enough, if the investment in the training is not good enough, they may feel demotivated after a few months, feeling a bit out of, of their possibilities. And I imagine that you have encountered that. But I'm conscious of time, Darrell, so I just want to finish on a very interesting question, which is how is AI and automation shaping the future of customer experience? And I want to quote someone whom I interviewed recently, a leader in customer success. And that person told me that they basically lost their job and that the function was replaced by a lot of AI tools. So, I mean, it's quite frightening to hear this kind of feedback. What is your opinion about the future?
Well, look, I think, we all experience today with our interactions with whatever services we're getting is that, a lot of this isn't human now. A lot of this is being done by generative AI and kind of chatbots and things like that. So certainly, the I don't necessarily see just the customer support stuff. Some of that will definitely need less humans to be able to do that. Having said that, we've spent the last half hour talking about customer success, and that I do feel that there's the other side to that is that AI will supercharge the ability for businesses and technology to understand how is their customers behaving and working with the technology you've supplied. And today, a lot of that is kind of not automated. A lot of that is still through personal interactions. So sure, we can automate a lot of that through AI. Understand, we build those AI capabilities already into our technology so that we understand, there's a whole process inside the system that is telling us how good the customer is operating on this. And sure, AI could also be, potentially generating suggestions back to the customer on what they could do. Having said that, there's also, you were saying that, earlier that, people also want to still deal with people. And there's a much more trustworthy sense around the trusted advisor, human, telling me how to do certain more complex things, or how to stretch my capabilities, or how to, improve my business. So what I would say is some of the smaller kind of technical resolving issues will be improved by AI and will need less human intervention. But the higher echelons of customer success and the whole relationship piece of it, which we talked about earlier, is a critical part of it, is the trusted advisor relationship. Yeah, maybe in the future there will be a trusted avatar AI that you're gonna kind of put your business in the hands of and believe everything they do. But I do feel that some of that is a little way off. And then more on a positive note on AI is, AI will in the next few years fundamentally change everything about software in itself. So how software is designed, how software kind of operates. And as we go through that, customer success is going to start playing another role in terms of, we talked a lot about, part of the job of customer success is to help customers through the transformation. Well, this is another level of transformation that's going to happen. This is another level of integration, a new level of software integration that we haven't completely invented yet. And again, as this starts to kind of come out, as customers are going to need to transfer across to this, if you want to kind of maintain your position as the business that is the trusted advisor or the stickiness with the customer, then you're going to need people to be able to walk people through this and educate them and help them and be able to use this new way of building software and software operating. So, yeah, look, there's always any change or shift. There's always going to be winners and losers on it. I think customer success in itself, I think, where we came in and said that, some of the support stuff and some of the basic customer service stuff, I think will kind of start to be automated by AI in a much more efficient way than perhaps what we've been doing for the last 10 years. But in a more positive way, AI is a huge opportunity for businesses to progress their products, but they're going to need customer success people to be able to help their customers, on that transformational journey. So yeah, still huge opportunities, and I'm really excited by the AI piece, and I can't wait to see, how we adapt some of the things we've already learned to this new technology.
I'm conscious of time. I want to thank you so very much to answer all my questions today. I want to say that you are moving into the consulting business. So you are going to be helping small to medium-sized companies, mostly in the B2B sector and in the industrial vertical, software vertical, software
Yes.
or hardware, potentially vertical.
Yeah, both really.
Yeah. So if anyone is interested, I will put your contact details at the end of this video, and they can also connect with you on LinkedIn. Do you have anything to add, Darrell?
No, as I say, appreciate your time. Some great questions there. As I say, I'm a big advocate for many years around customer success, and also kind of, this. I'm always looking to the future. How do we do it better? What are the AI changes? So anyone who feels they need any help with that, happy for them to reach out to me. I'm good to connect. I just want to learn more as well as help other people. So look forward to anyone that wants to drop us a line and connect.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.